Come on, Iguanus, the fish are waiting. I told you not to go to those cleaners. Look at how they shrunk you. Hello everybody, Sparkster1701 here, and we're back with another legacy figure. One of them that I was definitely waiting to see them do. This is Iguanus. Now, Iguanus, for those of you who aren't as familiar with Transformers, is a character from the Generation 1 toy line. In fact, right here is his Generation 1 toy. However, the new toy seems to take more inspiration from his Pretender shell. Iguanus was released in 1988. He was part of the first wave of a new gimmick known as Pretenders. The Pretender Transformers were sold as a figure 2-pack where we got a transforming robot and a plastic shell that could double as a separate action figure. In some cases, like with Iguanus, he tended to prefer his outer shell than how he looked as a robot. In fact, it is said that Iguanus was pretty much obsessed with his shell. Whenever it was placed in stasis, he'd be sitting outside of that chamber dreamily looking at it. And he would constantly be studying earth lizards and reptiles to try to mimic their behavior. So Iguanus was definitely more in line with wanting to be a reptilian creature than he was at being a robot. Iguanus was one of the more popular of the Pretender figures due to the fact that his robot mode had a rather interesting and unique alternate mode, which was something that was a problem with the Pretender lineup. Since these skinny robots had to fit inside the shell, it did limit their transformations considerably. In fact, many of them had to use the extra pieces to complete their look. Iguanus here is one of them. But Hasbro and Takara were able to churn him out into a rather unique alternate mode. And that is what has helped keep him as a popular figure to this day. Alright. Now let's take a look at modern Iguanus. Modern Iguanus here seems to be a hybrid of both his G1 shell and robot modes, since it has his wheels attached to his shoulders. Unfortunately, the wheel piece cannot attach like that on the Generation 1 toy. There are no posts on the back, there are no posts or holes on the back of the shell. But it still does lead to an interesting figure here, and a nice way to bring a classic character back into the fold. Now, for the benefit of those of you who weren't here last week, or last time when we played the Hot Rod video, there's an interesting gimmick with these three core class figures here, in the fact that all of their weapons can be combined to form a giant sword. Iguanus's piece forms the middle portion. You would basically take Skywarp's tuning fork and attach it to the bottom. And then you can plug Hot Rod's sword into the top like that. And then Iguanus has his own sword. Which, Well, it certainly looked silly on Hot Rod. It still looks just as silly here on Iguanus. But that's where the power of imagination comes in with it. Let's see, what would be appropriate for him? Let's see. There is one. Thunder, thunder, thunder lizards. Oh! Nah, it doesn't work either. Alright, let's take a look here at Iguanus' accessory. And he only came with this blaster. And it's done up predominantly in gold and red, with purple knobs on it, so it does harken well to his colors, both his modern and his Generation 1 colors. So it does pay a nice homage to the original toy. And with that out of the way, let's take a look at Iguanus' articulation. And he has what would be about standard for a core class figure. We can turn his head from side to side. Unfortunately, it is on a slight ball joint. It will rock up and down, but not very much. His arm can raise up about so far. And it does rotate at the shoulder all the way, but as you can see, the wheels do get in the way of his articulation. He can bend his arm at the elbow 90 degrees. And it is on a ball joint, so it will swivel a bit. So he does have some form of G.I. Joe style battle grip. He can be twisted at his hips, so he does have some dance moves going for him here. You can spread his legs apart about so far. He does have something of a thigh cut, so you can twist his legs like that. Raise his leg at the hip 90 degrees. You can bend his leg at the knee 90 degrees. And you can also swivel his feet at the ankle, because he has a ball joint on his ankles. So all in all, he does transform. He does have a lot of posability going for him. Now, there are spots on the internet that claim he can be folded up in a special way that he'll fit in the Generation 1 shell, but I haven't seen how to do that, so I'm not going to attempt it. That, and if you see the video that I've done on my Generation 1 Iguanas, you can see I've got a rather special one since I have the box. And I don't want to have to track down another Iguanus because he was a pain to find. But at any rate, let's transform Iguanus into his unique alternate mode. To start, we got to turn him around to his backside. You fold down this middle section here a bit. Then we're going to raise it up and over. It goes over his head. There's a couple of points in here. They're just barely noticeable on the camera, but they connect into these large holes here at the top of his chest plate. It'll take a little effort, but that's where they're supposed to go. They may not lock in right. Make sure we got the head in the right position. As you can see, there's a mold in here on this interior piece. It's got a groove in it for the large spike. Okay, that did it. Now, once we got his head like that, we come down here and we're going to twist his hips around like so. Then we're going to turn him around to come back to his backside. You take this shoulder wheel here, and we're just going to fold it down, and it becomes his front wheel. Then we're going to rotate the other shoulder down like so, and then rotate it so that it's also up. Excuse me. Like so. Now, we hold him up straight. We're going to twist his arms up. So they kind of come up like so. Then we rotate the arms at the elbow so that the black spikes are pointing upwards. Then you're going to bring them down and use the undersides of his fists to connect to the posts sticking out of the wheel. If you've got it done right, his arms should bend and give to fit in the proper place. They should bend at the shoulder and a little bit at the elbow. And there we go, he's gripping the front wheel. Now we're going to turn him around to look at his backside. You're going to first turn his legs at the knee so that they twist and his knee pads are now pointing upwards. Then you're going to come back here to his feet and you're going to rotate them so his feet point downwards. And then, because of their ankle joints, you can fold his feet so that they face each other inwards. Then now you bend his legs at the knee, like so. And then we're going to connect everything together. There's a hole right here on the sides of his tail, so it'll connect to this purple protrusion on his gold knee pads. And plus he's got a hole in his foot, which should attach to the post on the wheel. Getting the post into his tail is the trickier of the two, so I would definitely recommend trying to do it first. But then again, getting the wheel in might help hold the leg in place, so that you can adjust his body a bit and try to get the post into the tail. There we go. Snaps right in. And we got one in. There goes the other one. Connect it up there. And then lastly, mount the gun on the windscreen. And there you have it. Iguanus becomes a freestanding motorcycle. So as you can see there's nothing there holding him up. He's able to stand by himself. In ways, he also harkens to the GoBot Cycle, since Cycle's conversion into his motorcycle mode, his arms held the front wheel, and you would bend his back legs to hold the back wheel. So how about that? A transformer harkening to a classic GoBot. Who'd have thunk it? And of course, here's the Generation 1 motorcycle. It looks kind of silly, especially when compared to the modern one. But hey, when you consider the fact that out of the 4 pretenders that became land vehicles, we had 2 racing cars, a tank, and a motorcycle. Somehow out of those 4, only one really stands out. Now, unlike the original, which used fake wheels, Iguanus here has real wheels. How does he roll on them? Unfortunately, quite terrible. He doesn't maintain his balance very well when he's in motion, so you'll have to hold him yourself if you want to drive him. Now we get to my thoughts. What do I think of Iguanus? This is a great update to a classic character. I do like the fact that they chose to hybridize the Pretender shell and the robot together. It's kind of the way Iguanus would have loved to have been in the first place. So in some ways, that does make Iguanus kind of a love letter to the Generation 1 fans by the fact that they did that. It's also nice to see that they did give him an alternate mode that sort of goes along well with his original, but is a nice update to it. It looks more like a motorcycle than what his Generation 1 version did. But of course, as I stated earlier, the skinny robot on the G1 version had to fit in the shell, so the gimmick took precedence over the transformation. Unfortunately, that did result in a lot of them that really did suck. But it's nice to see that at least one has gotten a modern update, and I do hope that a few others will turn up in the Legacy line with a nice modern update. So here's hoping, because at the moment, no further core class figures have been announced. So hopefully some more of these guys will be in the pipeline. At any rate, that's my look at the Legacy version of Iguanus. I hope you all enjoyed it. And remember, if you do like the type of content that we feature here on this channel, please do remember to like, share, comment, and subscribe. We do appreciate the feedback. This is Sparkster1701 saying I will catch you all later.